Hello and welcome to today's video. We're going to be talking about the gift of innovation within the third gene key through the eyes of a child. And this is actually so on par with today. Today I feel, I'm always pretty childlike. If you know me on a personal level, you can affirm this. I'm pretty silly, but today I was extra silly, I think. Yeah, I was extra silly. So reading this chapter just now and then getting here to annotate it seems very, very aligned. And I guess on that note, I'll just say, anytime something like that happens where I notice, for instance, I was acting extra childlike and now I'm reading a chapter all about, he specifically really talks about kind of the consciousness of a child within this chapter. So you could say that's a synchronicity. Whenever I see any form of synchronicity, whether it's small or big, whether it makes sense or it doesn't make any logical connection, I simply take it to mean that I'm in alignment. I'm in attunement with my reality. And that's enough for me. So, opening this chapter about the gift, he remarks how the shadow, which we went over in the past two videos, is actually holding the secret to our future. And it's interesting because I kind of derived this from reading the shadows chapter about how, yeah, it does hold the secret to our future, right? I engineered it backwards and realized, just how we realize our behavior, it's the human behavior, right? That's driving us toward chaos or cosmos. Behavior is derived from thoughts. Okay, so just how our thoughts can drive us into more disorder and more chaos, they can also drive us into more love and newer heights. So the third shadow does hold the secret to our future, and this is the way I interpreted it. But he says it very clearly here. He said the third shadow holds the secret to our future. All one has to do is look back at our own evolution to see where it must inevitably lead. Okay, so now we have two ways from this third shadow state to see how we can unlock the future, enter into the new paradigm. The first one, what I just said, monitoring the thoughts, ensuring you're redirecting yourself back to presence when you find yourself drifting into a low vibrational form of thinking or viewing chaos in a different light. Or what Richard Red says here, which is to simply look at the past and realize that evolution always repeats itself, right? History is very telling of where we are about to go. I think in a different video, I said something about how the cycle of life, how there's chaos, or what you could call entropy, and then that creates the groundwork for something to sprout. Life starts to come in, love blossoms, entropy, and then it happens all over again. Syntropy to entropy, syntropy to entropy. Chaos to cosmos, chaos to cosmos. Darkness to light, darkness to light. There's so many different ways to say this. The key takeaway being, it's a cycle. Meaning, inevitably, one leads to the other. And it's not about avoiding the negative parts of the cycle. It's about when you're in the negative parts, seeing it in a different framework, thinking about it differently, perceiving it differently. And then he goes in to say how, and again, I think it's actually very important, I'm just going to say this, if you haven't seen videos 1 and 2 within this third gene key, you might want to watch those for this video to make sense, because within this third gene key, he really continues on this thread of single cell consciousness, which I talk about in the last two videos. So you might want to pause this and backtrack if you haven't seen those yet. So on that note, yes, he continues his little tangent about the single cell consciousness, which once again is, old biology systems that are rooting from Darwinism are seeing the cell as, within the cell there's a nucleus, and in the nucleus there's the brain of the cell. But now, with this new quantum biology model emerging, scientists are finding that the nucleus is in the membrane of the cell, meaning it's touching the inside of the cell and the outside. And this reworks everything because now we're not going from single cell consciousness, we are evolving into these more complex systems. And so then he continues this argument. He says, if it were true that deep within the nucleus of every cell, a selfish drive were paramount, then it is highly unlikely that any two cells could ever cooperate, since their very design would drive them to compete. It's a pretty good argument. And so that means that the quantum biologist must be right. The nucleus must be within the membrane. We know that the membrane allows the single cell to respond to its environment, right? Because the membrane's touching the environment, the outside, and the inside, the cell. So it allows the cell to communicate with its environment. That's another way of saying it gives the cell the opportunity to connect, to not be fragmented. And this kind of reframes the way in which we see everything. Because now this model is holistic. It's not divided. And even a stage further than this, he says, if the cell can respond to its environment, it must allow its DNA to be influenced by its environment. Okay, so what's your environment? Your environment is quite literally the environment you're sitting in. Okay, so for me, it's Bali, Uluwatu, trees, it's kind of warm out. My environment is also what I ingest. So I just had a smoothie bowl earlier. My environment is what's around me, this pen, this seashell, what experiences, so the people I've just seen and the other kinds of activities I've done recently. My environment is people, places, things. It's everything. So once again, this quantum model of biology says that we are influenced by our environment. And this directly rejects the old model of biology. So this is still up and coming and only accepted by some. Some people do, if you're on the quantum wave, think, yes, my environment affects me, therefore I can also affect my environment. And then the old model says the opposite. Oh, no. The environment doesn't affect me. It's all predetermined. And also I have no power. I can't possibly affect anything in my reality or environment. And so, once again, sedimenting into this gift of innovation, we got to get on the quantum wave. We have to say, you know what? Einstein knew a thing or two. Sorry, Darwin, you're out. Time's up. Things change. Darwin and his findings served a purpose, but now we're stepping into a new paradigm of quantum biology, of empowerment, of yes, my environment affects me and I affect my environment. We are one, we are connected. Oh, the sun's out. I feel like that's an affirmation. That's just how I feel though. That quantum biology is, let's see. And then he goes over how millions of years ago, single-celled consciousness made a quantum leap into multi-celled consciousness. So therefore, it would make sense that now as multi-celled consciousness, we're going to make another quantum leap. This is just how it goes, right? Keep gaining new heights. And he talks about how this survival-based programming within the DNA had to have either mutated or adjusted itself in order for the cell to be assimilated into a greater organism. So this survival-based programming within the single-cell consciousness is still within us. It's just been mutated. And eventually this will fall off too, right? Evolution over time, if you don't use it, you lose it. So because we've stopped using it less and less and less, eventually it will become obsolete. But currently, as you know, if you're human, there is definitely still some survival-based programming going on within your psyche, more likely than not, unless you're enlightened and watching this video, in which case, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm thrilled if you're enlightened and watching this channel. I'm also thrilled if you're not enlightened and watching this channel. Anyways, yes, this single-celled consciousness is still within us. It's just becoming less and less and less until eventually it will phase out. Wow, it got really, really warm. I might have to scooch over here into the shade. See, evolution. I'm also changing and moving as I make this video. Okay. Oh, the book matches my shirt today. Yes. So just as the single cell consciousness is mutating, just as I'm changing from sun to shade, innovation, which is change, is built into the very nature of life. It's just what life does. It's just what people do. It's just inevitable. Change is inevitable. Innovation is inevitable, and it's a gift. Life itself is designed to transcend its own initial programming. Quite literally, we are designed to keep stepping into a newer version of ourselves. All of nature. And you see this when you look around. Even nature, does a tree stay still? No, it moves in the wind, it loses leaves, it grows new ones. Sometimes it's completely naked. Other times it's super happy and green. Change is inevitable. Innovation is everywhere. And it actually might be a fun activity to brainstorm where you see change in your life naturally occurring. So whether it's the trees or even, all these seashells I have on my deck here, they've changed too. They used to house little animals, and now the animals aren't in here, which is why they're on my on my table here. And then maybe they'll change into a necklace when I feel like being creative. And then maybe the necklace will get given away because I'll get sick of it and it'll go to a Goodwill, and then someone else will buy it and it'll be a necklace on a new person, and then it'll break and get swept into the garbage. Like, change is inevitable. So it could be fun to just look around right now, choose one thing, and then start to contemplate how it could change. Because I think in practicing seeing that change is inevitable, we start to become comfortable with it, right? Because inherently change is uncomfortable. Changing form, changing ideologies, shedding old personality traits or habits that don't serve you. It's uncomfortable and it's weird, and the more we get to know something, the less scary it feels, I find. So, become familiar with change. Could be a fun activity. Because it is this change that's taking us to the new and higher forms of consciousness. The new forms of reality, the new forms of our own personality. Here's a total bar. Oh, this is such a good line. This might be my favorite line in the whole chapter. We'll see by the end of this video if it is. But beyond selfishness and chaos lies cooperation and innovation. Beyond selfishness and chaos lies cooperation and innovation. Innovation only occurs when you truly begin to think for yourself. Okay. Well, I think for myself all the time. Do you? Richard Rudd actually even says, do you? Really think about that. How many choices, when you make them, are you, the individual with your own consciousness, actually making? How many times do you go to the cafe you go to only because it's the most popular one? How many times do you dress a certain way because it's the subliminal programming that's trendy right now? How many choices are you actually making by yourself? Society's constantly programming us very subconsciously, very subliminally, through advertising, through observing what the collective is doing. And so truly thinking for yourself, true innovation is actually very rare. it takes a lot of presence. So something interesting to ponder here is, how many things do I do on autopilot? Even when I wake up to go get my coffee in the morning. Am I going to get my coffee because actually in this moment right now I want a coffee? Or am I doing it just because I always do it and because I always have? And so, because in that instance, am I actually making this decision, or is an old version of me making this decision? That's another really interesting one to contemplate. Am I doing what I'm doing just because I've always done it? True innovation takes complete presence. In this moment now, what do I want as I am right now? What do I want to do? I don't know if that sentence makes sense. I kind of jumbled over my words. In this moment right now, as I am right now, what do I want to choose? This is something to ask yourself. So innovation takes constant awareness. Now. You need to be here to be innovative. You can't be left in yesterday or projected into tomorrow or into society or the norms. Innovation is more than being creative, he says. It means you're completely escaped from the fear-based perspective of the shadow frequency, right? Because if you're transcending all of society's norms, yeah, you probably are super courageous and have no fear-based consciousness running you. Because when you're truly innovative, you're doing actually what you want to do in that moment. You're standing in your authenticity despite what everyone else is doing, which means more often than not, you will be very obviously standing out. He talks about how innovation is built upon optimism. And optimism, he says, is the dynamic energy of the heart of creation. The dynamic energy of the heart of creation. Optimism is this multifaceted energy that creates, that expresses. So true optimism is true expression, standing truly in your authenticity. This is the foundational groundwork for innovation. You can't be innovative unless you're authentic. This is essentially what Richard Rudd is saying here. Once again, sounds simple. Oh, just be yourself. Okay. To be yourself, you also have to be completely present in every single moment. So with every sip of water, everything you eat, everything you wear, everything you read, you, as you show up now, are choosing of your own free will to do these things, see these people, ingest these foods, whatever it is. Authenticity is the groundwork for innovation. The whole is far more powerful than its individual human components. Simple truth there. And innovation implies cooperation by its very nature. Right? He says here that you have to, in order to come to a higher form of your own being, you have to integrate what you've learned from the past, put it all together, synthesize it, and apply it to who you are now so you can grow. So you need to cooperate with your environment, with old habits and patterns, with old versions of yourself. Integrate and synthesize. This is the method to the madness. You need to be able to reflect on what just happened, collect it into an organized way, and move forward. So that you can become innovative, right? And he says innovation, essentially, in a nutshell, is to improve something through the introduction of a new element or elements. Essentially, innovation occurs when you introduce a new level of consciousness, a new level of awareness. Because when you introduce a new level of awareness, you invite yourself to be in the present moment, truly be here, you start to see new people, new places, new things. Once again, you start to observe all the synchronicity that was always around you. Back to one of my old analogies, you take off the dark sunnies. Things do look so innovative and new and fresh. Because I'm not looking through life at the lens of some dark veil finally see. What a relief. And then he drops a nice little bar here. Unity equals efficiency. Working together, cooperation, a holistic model of reality, is actually the most efficient way to evolve, to go about things, to become more loving, more abundant, more radiant, all the good things. Unity equals efficiency. And this word unity, remember, is from Gene Key 2. It is the city state. The state of unity is quite literally, it's equivalent to enlightenment. And he's saying that unity equals efficiency. It's a pretty big statement there. And I think for that one, I could keep rabbit holing it, but I feel because it's so concise, short and sweet, I don't want to muck it up with all of my thoughts. So the homework, and just so you guys know, when I make these videos, I'm like, oh, if you're watching this, you should contemplate this. Just know it's because I've already contemplated it or I plan to. I like to give myself homework when I read things because I think part of reading something is, like he says here, integrating and synthesizing it, truly understanding what you're ingesting, what your environment's putting into you. So right here, I was about to say unity equals efficiency. You who's watching this, I would say maybe meditate on that phrase. Unity equals efficiency. And anything I ever say, which is like, oh, maybe you should contemplate this, maybe you should meditate about this, know that I am doing it too. So yes, I plan to sit in the sauna later and meditate on the phrase unity equals efficiency so that my heart can tell me something that my brain right now is going to jumble and muck up if I attempt to get in there. Oh, this part I love. This gave me a beautiful visual as I was reading it. Life is continually mutating, always changing, always. As it mutates, it transcends. Who, what, and wherever you are, if you're not continually transcending, if you're not changing, if you're not evolving, then you are dying. There's a lot of bold statements in this chapter. If you're not changing, then you're dying. And the visual that came to my head when I read that was, stagnicity does kill. Because I instantly thought of water. And the ocean is so beautiful moving, the rivers, you can see the rocks and the reflection. And then I thought of a very still pond, one that doesn't move at all, that's completely stagnant. Oh gosh, it gets kind of gross, weird bugs come to it, maybe it smells even. Stagnicity kills. If you're not changing, you're dying. That's super profound, and you actually see it once again reflected in nature. Just how we can observe the trees changing. We can observe how when water left still is not beautiful anymore. It's kind of gross, honestly. Even the forms of life that are attracted to it are just less beautiful, to put it very simply. The dogs agree. Wow, the sun is chasing me. Usually I'm chasing the sun, but today it's like... Okay. And then the part where he starts talking about, and I think this is why this chapter is called Through the Eyes of a Child. He starts talking about the gift of play, very on par with my day today. He says it's an overlooked human gift, the gift of play. If you truly want to see the genius of innovation, you only have to watch a young child at play. The child is the living expression of genius. The child both mutates its environment and is also mutated by its environment. Okay, let's think about that for a second. The child mutates its environment. Just think about a baby. It goes around, it puts things in its mouth, it falls over, it like licks things. It just like changes its environment. But also, just as much, the baby is mutated, the baby is changed by its environment. Think about a baby. If you say a certain word around it enough times, it'll start going, mama. Or if you do something enough times, the baby will just start to naturally pick up on it. Whether that's eat a certain item. The remote is a perfect example. How many times do babies start to correlate, remote turns on TV. They go try to get the remote and mess around with it. Like toddlers will do that, I've noticed. So the child both mutates its environment and allows itself to be mutated by the environment. Because children are open-hearted and open-minded. They're curious. They want to know. They want to touch everything. They want to be touched by everything. And this is genius. This is true presence. Curiosity is true presence. Wow, okay, if I'm sweating. Sorry, it's literally so hot. Innovation requires a deep sense of inner trust. As you continue to work with this gift, you have to continually change, right? And as we talked about earlier, change is so uncomfortable sometimes. Sometimes change is just, man, but I was so happy where I was, what I was doing, with who I was dating, with how I was living my life, with the way I was eating, and gosh, now you want me to change? So much work. Now I have to brainstorm a new way to go about being. Now I have to build a new routine and get used to going through those motions. And I already have this set memorized, so do I really have to change? Change requires effort. Change requires presence. Presence leads you into curiosity, which puts you into that state of the gift of play, the gift of innovation. And it requires a lot of trust. Trust that this change will get easier and it's for your benefit. It's for your own evolution. It's for you to grow into higher and greater levels of love. This might be my favorite line actually. He says, even though you may not yet see how everything fits together, why the change is occurring, you feel an underlying unifying spirit, this deep trust. And above all else, you have enormous fun. This is the most important thing, to have enormous fun as you're going through the weird and new and novel experiences and changes. It's the whole point of life, is to have enormous fun. Life is designed to keep on innovating. Hey guys, thanks again for tuning in with me for this Gene Keys episode. I also just wanted to come on here and start promoting my one-to-one coaching that I offer to women and girls ages 16 to 35. If you've followed me on Instagram for a while, you might be a little bit familiar with my story. I was a model in New York City for 5 years, and in that time frame, I did quite some damage. I developed a really severe eating disorder, body dysmorphia, chronic anxiety. Oh my gosh, I couldn't even go out to dinner without thinking about how much calories, how much I'd have to overwork out in order to compensate for what I was eating. All of those issues led to quite a depression and turned into PCOS, and I also lost my menstrual cycle for over 5 years. All of this amalgamation of issues led me to soon realize that something needed to change. I went through much work. Many people helped me to get to where I am now. And I'm so thrilled to say I'm living such a more abundant life, and I don't feel zapped and drained and fear of judgment anymore like I used to. I would love to offer what I've learned through my own embodied experience, the meditative techniques that have gravitated toward me, and the own verified games that I've made up and curated to help you walk home to more of you and who you really are, so that all of these things can stop draining your energy. You know, all the constant comparison to others and to people on Instagram, all the over-analysis about working out and what you're eating or what you look like, All of these things are not what life's about, as cheesy as it sounds. And I would love to help you come into more unity with you if you struggle with any of these things and you're a woman or girl between the ages of 16 and 35. So feel free to reach out to me if one-on-one coaching sounds resonant. You can feel free to DM me through Instagram or contact me via email, both of which will be left below in the description box. So much love and aloha to you guys, and I'll see you all in the next video.